At the peak of his power, he was an elite company.
First of all, he's not a striker. He scores
counter shot
like a striker,
he could dream of.
but he's not a striker. He's a winger.
Getting praise from a guy like Mourinho playing for a team like Spurs, that's no joke. And that's also why I decided to make a video on how good prime Son Heung-min was.
Curling shot is unbelievable.
And wait till you see the goal he scored that won him a global award. Son Heung-min's story starts in South Korea. He was born on July 8th, 1992 in Cheonsan-si, and from an early age, Son loved playing football. But you see, his dad noticed this, and his dad equally helped him develop his love for the game and turn that passion into a career. The only thing is, Son and his dad's love for the game wasn't the typical football dad and kid story. This one was different. He was a very tough coach and still is. He'd always say that you had to work hard, you had to be professional, but without his tough training, I wouldn't be here. For 4 hours, I would juggle the ball. These were crazy memories for me. Imagine juggling a ball for 4 hours. That's actually crazy. Still, the early training helped Son improve his game. His dad focused more on his technique and abilities, and even restricted him from playing in competitive matches early on, because he wanted his focus to be a lot more on improving. It paid off big time. After getting into FC Seoul's under-18 setup, German club Hamburg set up a deal with Seoul to get some of the biggest talents in the country to Germany, and Son was one of them. At a young age, he'd impressed a lot with his ball control and technique, passed his trial and was off to Germany. Initially, he found it tough at his new team, learning a new language and a new culture. But once Son found his rhythm, it all just ticked. He made his debut for the senior team against Chelsea in a pre-season friendly, and even scored in it too. He had to wait till October that year to make his league debut, but in the game he finally did against Cologne. Son was off the mark from the start. At 18 years old, he'd become the youngest debutant to score in the Bundesliga history at the time. In the 78 games he played for Hamburg, he scored 20 goals and registered 3 assists in 78 games. The stats don't exactly sound impressive, but when you deep the fact that he was still settling in, they were more than decent. Son was more than just the numbers. His technical abilities have made him one of the most exciting wingers in the league, and as a result, a lot of teams were interested in him. He eventually settled for Bayer Leverkusen, and in the 87 games he played for the club, Son notched up 29 goals and 11 assists, including a hat-trick against his former team.
Oh, and a really good finish. Son sprinting through, he's done well here. Round the goalkeeper, Heung-Min Son. It's his second. Kiesling, it's come for Son, and that's his hat-trick.
He only spent 2 seasons at Leverkusen, but as he continued to improve, Son had caught the attention of clubs, not just in Germany, but around the world now. And ultimately, he'd now made the move to the team that would take him into his prime years. He signed for Tottenham in 2015. Initially, Son's early years at the club weren't as good. He only managed 8 goals in 42 league games, and 4 of those were in the league. There were even reports he wanted to leave. But you see, head coach Mauricio Pochettino had a plan for Son. He wanted to create a dynamic team in attack and wanted Son to be part of it. So he convinced him to stay, and in return, Son exploded. In the 2016-17 season, Son had 20 goal contributions in 34 league games, and this don't tell the full story. Together with Dele Alli, Christian Eriksen and Harry Kane, the front 4 going forward for Spurs was incredibly dynamic, and Son was part of it. He finished with 21 goals and 7 assists in 47 games that season, and in the following campaign, 2017-2018, Son hit it big. With 18 goals and 11 assists in 53 games, you might argue that his goal numbers dropped, but that's the stat test. On the eye test, Son was now one of the best wingers in England. 12 goals and 6 assists in 37 games. In the Champions League, he adds 4 goals in 7 matches. Spurs made it to the FA Cup semi-final that year, and they had Son to thank for that. 2 goals and 3 assists in 7 games. If you made it this far, just a quick heads up, hitting that subscribe button to the channel helps us create more content like this for you. Thanks! On the international scene, Son was now back home. He became captain of the South Korean team for the Asian Games and led his team to glory.
경기 끝났습니다. 대한민국과 일본 연장전까지 가는 결승 끝에 대한민국이 일본을 누르고
1 goal and 5 assists in the competition, including 2 assists in the final versus Japan. He was at the 2018 World Cup with South Korea, and even though they failed to make it out the group stage, that final group stage game against Germany provided a unique individual moment for Son. He captained the national team to beat the defending champions in the World Cup, a special moment. The 2018-19 season, and in this one, Son had matured into one of the key players in that Spurs team. In the Champions League, for example, Spurs faced a tough challenge in the quarter-finals versus Manchester City, and over both legs, Son made the difference. His goal in the first leg proved to be the winner, and in the second leg, he scored twice to help Spurs draw the game 4-4 on aggregate and progress to the semis. They made it to the Champions League final, and even though they lost to Liverpool, Son and Spurs had a decent campaign, 20 goals and 9 assists. And in the 2019-20 season, 18 goals and 11 assists followed. And while it was a relatively disappointing season for Spurs, Son once again had a personal highlight. This goal here won him the Puskas-winning.
Oh wow, what a run! Heung-Min Son from inside his own half has scored one of the best goals of his...
The moment we've been building up to now. Son had now entered an era we could define as his peak. See, Spurs had changed coaches, and with Jose Mourinho in charge, he was determined to get the best out of Son. That season, he made Son a big game player. Out of the 17 league goals he scored that season, Son scored 4 against Southampton, including scoring in big games against Manchester United, Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool and Manchester United again. He also got 10 assists that season as well. Mourinho eventually got the sack, but what he'd learnt under Jose now kept him in that peak phase, and in the next season, Son hit an all-time high. This is how he started the season, by scoring the winner in the opening game against the defending league champions Manchester City. Son didn't stop. He did his best work in the league. Son was Spurs' Mr. Reliable that season. For the first time in the league, he hit the 20-plus goal mark and finished with 23. This includes scoring a hat-trick in a 4-0 win versus Aston Villa, braces against Norwich, Leicester City and West Ham, scored against Arsenal home and away, scored against Liverpool home and away, and after that final day, brace versus Norwich, Son made history. He won the Golden Boot award in the league, joined most league goals that season with Mohamed Salah. When broken down, Son really did score 23 league goals without a single penalty. He'd also knocked off Harry Kane from being the top scorer in the league season for the first time in 8 years. He'd outperformed his XG and was averaging nearly a goal or assist in every match he played that season. Absolutely incredible. This, guys, was where Son peaked. Since then, he'd gone on to achieve milestones like becoming the club's captain and hitting the 100 goal mark in the Premier League. But from an individual standout, that 2021-22 season was the deadliest form Son has shown throughout his career. He combined everything effectively: goal scoring, dribbling. He was very direct and very comfortable on either foot as well. And at the Ballon d'Or rankings for that year, Son hit an all-time high of 11th place. He was the 11th best player in the world. He's still the current captain of Spurs, and as he rightly puts it now, it's an honour to be captain of the team. You just get that feeling that a trophy with Spurs would be around the corner, and if he can pull this off, it will just cement his status as a Spurs legend for life. He's already won even with that. Speaking of legends wearing that iconic jersey number 7 in the Premier League, it don't get any bigger than Cristiano Ronaldo. Want to find out what his peak prime was? Click the next video to see how dangerous prime Cristiano Ronaldo was. And if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future content from us.